The alarm didn't start as a sound. It started as a vibration, low, violent, wrong. Captain Alara Venn felt it through the deck before she heard it, a deep shudder that ran up her legs and into her chest like the ship itself was trying to scream. Then the sirens followed. A harsh, tearing wail filled every corridor of the TSS Horizon Breaker, rising and falling like something alive, something panicking. "Report!" she snapped, already moving. The bridge doors hadn't even finished opening before the smell hit her. Burned circuitry, hot metal, and something sharper underneath. Radiation. Bad. Very bad. "Reactor breach in Sector 4, the engineer shouted, his voice breaking through static. "Containment field is collapsing. We're losing it." "How long?" Alara didn't sit. She didn't even slow down. Her hands gripped the back of the command chair hard enough to turn her knuckles white. Silence. Too long. "How long?" she repeated, louder this time. "Minutes, Captain." The word landed like a hammer. Around her, the crew froze for half a second. Just half. That was all it took for reality to settle in. Minutes, not hours. Not even enough time to pretend. "Seal the sector," Alara ordered. "Dump all non-essential power into containment. Now." "We've already tried," someone shouted. "It's not holding. Radiation is spreading through the ventilation system." The lights flickered, dimmed, then snapped to emergency red. The bridge was suddenly painted in blood. "Navigation?" she demanded. The officer didn't look up. "We're off chart, Captain. Deep sector. No relay stations. No colonies. Nothing within 3 weeks at current velocity." 3 weeks. Alara almost laughed. "Distress beacon." "Broadcasting, ma'am," came the reply. "Full spectrum. Continuous loop. Anyone close enough to hear it?" Another pause. No. The ship lurched. Not a gentle drift. Not a warning tremor. This was violent. The kind that threw people sideways and sent unsecured equipment crashing across the deck. Somewhere below, something exploded. The comms lit up instantly with overlapping voices. "Fire in Med Bay. Life support dropping on Deck 6. We've got hull stress fractures forming along the aft." Silence. Alara's voice cut through everything like a blade. And just like that, the chaos snapped into something tighter. Not calm. Never calm. But controlled. She forced herself to breathe once. Slow. Then she looked at them. 12 faces. 12 people. Not numbers. Not crew designations. People. Lieutenant Kale, who never stopped talking about the ocean he'd never seen. Engineer Rowe, who named every machine she fixed like it was a pet. Young Patel at navigation, barely 20, pretending not to be afraid. They were all looking at her, waiting, trusting. And outside the reinforced glass of the bridge viewport, the void stretched on forever. Cold, empty, uncaring. No ships, no lights, no rescue, just endless black. "Contain what you can," Alara said quietly, her voice steady in a way she didn't feel. "Shut down all non-essential systems. Prioritize life support and beacon power." "Captain," the engineer's voice came back, weaker now. "Even if we stabilize the leak, the radiation exposure." "I know," she said. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. They all knew what it meant. Even if the ship held together, even if the systems didn't fail completely, the damage was already done. It was inside them now. Silent. Unstoppable. The Horizon Breaker wasn't just dying. It was taking them with it. Alara turned back to the viewport. Somewhere, impossibly far away, was Earth. Warm skies. Blue oceans. The sound of wind that didn't come from a failing ventilation system. She pictured it for just a second. Then she let it go. "Keep the beacon running," she said. No one answered, because everyone understood what she wasn't saying. No one was coming. And out here, between the stars, that meant only one thing. They were going to die alone. But even then, especially then, no one on that bridge stopped working. The cold came first. Not all at once. Not dramatic. Just a slow, creeping absence where warmth used to be. Captain Alara then noticed it in her hands. They didn't respond the same way when she flexed her fingers. Slower, stiffer, like her body was already starting to forget how to be alive. Temperature dropping across all decks. Patel reported quietly. We've rerouted everything we can to life support, but it won't be enough, Alara finished. Patel didn't answer. He didn't have to. The red emergency lights made everyone look like ghosts. Faces hollow, eyes too bright, skin already pale under the artificial glow. Somewhere behind her, someone coughed. Wet. Deep. Alara didn't turn around. How long on air? She asked. 6 hours, came the reply from engineering. A pause. Then softer, maybe less if the filters degrade. 6 hours. She closed her eyes for just a moment. 6 hours to live. 6 hours to think about everything she hadn't finished. 6 hours to remember promises she wouldn't keep. Captain, Kale's voice was hesitant, almost fragile. Should we record messages? For family? The question hung in the air. Heavy. Dangerous. Because once you said it out loud, it became real. Alara opened her eyes again. Yes, she said. Do it. No speeches. No comfort. Just the truth. Chairs scraped softly as people moved. Consoles lit up with personal recordings. The quiet hum of the ship was broken now by low voices. Murmured words meant for people who would never hear them. I'm sorry, someone whispered. I tried. I love you. Alara stayed where she was. She didn't move to record anything, because she didn't trust her voice not to break. Radiation levels increasing, the medic reported from the side console. Symptoms are accelerating. As if to prove the point, a sharp gasp echoed from the far side of the bridge. Alara turned this time. Ro was gripping the edge of her station, knuckles white, her breath coming in short, uneven bursts. A thin line of blood traced its way down from her nose, catching the red light like ink. I'm fine, Ro said quickly, before anyone could speak. Just a little dizzy. No one believed her, but no one argued, because they all felt it. The nausea, the pressure behind the eyes, the slow, creeping wrongness spreading through their bodies. It wasn't pain, not yet. It was worse than that. It was inevitability. Med bay is full, the medic added quietly. And it's not helping. I can't stop it. Alara nodded once. Do what you can. Again, no false hope, no lies, just duty. The ship groaned around them, a deep metallic strain that echoed through the hull like something breaking under too much weight. The horizon breaker was holding, for now, but it sounded tired, like it knew. Beacon status? Alara asked. Still transmitting, Patel said. Maximum range. Any response? A pause. Longer this time. No, Captain. Of course not. This region of space was empty. They had known that when they came out here. Uncharted routes, new paths, pushing further than anyone had before. Explorers, pioneers, brave, stupid. Alara let out a slow breath. Keep it running anyway. Yes, ma'am. Another hour passed. Or maybe it was 10 minutes. Time didn't feel right anymore. Jenkins collapsed first. No warning. No dramatic moment. 1 second he was standing at his station. The next his knees buckled, and he hit the deck hard enough to echo. Jenkins. Kale was at his side instantly. The medic followed, already scanning, already knowing. Alara watched from her chair as they tried to lift him, tried to wake him, tried to pretend there was something they could do. There's too much damage, the medic said finally, his voice hollow. His organs it's shutting down. Jenkins didn't open his eyes, didn't move, didn't even seem to breathe. The silence that followed was worse than the alarms. Alara stood slowly. Take him to medbay, she said. No one argued. They carried him out gently, carefully, like he might still feel it, like it still mattered. When the doors closed behind them, the bridge felt smaller, quieter. 11 now. Elara looked back out into the void. Still nothing. No ships. No signals. No miracle waiting just beyond sensor range. Just black. Endless black. Captain, Patel's voice trembled this time. What if no one comes? Elara didn't answer right away. She could have lied. Could have said something about hope, about odds, about how rescue is always possible. But they all knew better. So she told the truth. Then we hold this ship together as long as we can, she said. We keep the beacon running. We stay at our posts. Her voice was steady, unshaken, even now, because that's what we do. Patel swallowed hard, then nodded. Yes, Captain. And that was it. No speeches, no heroics, just a quiet agreement between the living and the dying. The horizon breaker drifted through empty space, bleeding heat, bleeding air, bleeding life. And still, its crew kept working, even as their hands shook, even as their vision blurred, even as the silence of the void pressed closer with every passing second. Because somewhere, deep down, buried under the fear and the pain and the certainty of the end, there was still a small, stubborn part of them that refused to stop. Even if it didn't matter, even if no one was coming, even if the universe had already decided how this would end. The first sign wasn't visual. It was Patel's voice. Captain. There was something different about it. Not fear, not panic. Something sharper, uncertain. Elara didn't turn right away. Report. I'm picking up something. That got her attention. She stepped forward, eyes locking onto the sensor display. To find something. Patel swallowed. It's not debris, not a reflection. It's a signal return. Moving. Fast. The bridge went still. Completely still. Distance. Elara asked. Closing. Rapidly. How rapid? Patel hesitated. Too fast for anything we know. That was worse than silence. Could it be human? Kale asked, already knowing the answer. No, Patel said. Transponder codes don't match anything in the database. Elara felt something shift in her chest. Hope. Sharp. Dangerous. Almost painful. Visual. She ordered. The main screen flickered, static crawling across it before resolving into darkness. Then, light. Not stars. Not debris. Something moving. At first, it looked like a distortion, like space itself bending. Then the shape emerged from the black, and the bridge filled with a low murmur no one could stop. It wasn't a ship, not like theirs, not like anything human. It moved like something alive. Long, sweeping curves instead of hard angles. Smooth surfaces that seemed to ripple as it glided forward, catching faint starlight in soft, shifting patterns. Lines of pale blue illumination ran along its body, pulsing slowly, like a heartbeat. What is that? Someone whispered. No one answered, because no one knew. Size. Elara asked quietly. Patel's fingers moved across the console. Then he froze. Captain, it's 3 times our mass. The thing on the screen shifted again, adjusting its trajectory with impossible grace. No visible thrusters, no engine flare, just motion, silent and precise. Is it scanning us? Elara asked. Yes, Patel said. Multiple frequencies. High resolution. It's thorough. A bitter thought flickered through her mind. Of course it was. They were dying, drifting, defenseless. If this was first contact, it was happening at the worst possible moment. Any weapon signatures? Kale asked. Patel shook his head. I can't tell. Their tech is different. That wasn't reassuring. The ship, alien, unmistakably alien, slowed as it approached, coming to a controlled stop just outside visual range. The blue lights along its surface dimmed slightly, then brightened again in a slow, rhythmic pulse, like it was thinking, waiting. Captain, the comms officer said, voice tight. I'm receiving a transmission. Every eye turned toward her. Alara's heartbeat picked up. Audio. Not directly. It's encoded. Complex structure. Our system is trying to interpret it. Do it. The console flickered. Static filled the air, harsh and broken. Then, a sound. Not words. Clicks. Tones. Strange, layered patterns that rose and fell in a way that almost felt like language, but not one meant for human ears. The bridge crew exchanged glances. Translation software is adapting, the comms officer said quickly. Give it a second. The sounds shifted, stabilized, and then, vessel, unidentified, distress signal received. The voice that came through was wrong, not in meaning, in texture. It carried a faint echo of those original clicks beneath the translated words, like something foreign pushing through a human filter. This is exploration ship designation translating. Gentle current. Alara felt her breath catch. Your vessel is critically damaged. Life support failing. Radiation exposure detected. The voice paused, not like a machine processing, like something considering. Do you require assistance? Silence. No one moved. No one spoke. Because for a moment, none of them trusted it. Hope, after everything, felt like a trick. Alara stepped forward. Her throat was dry. Her hands still slightly shaking. But her voice held. Yes, she said. One word. But it carried everything. Yes, we do. Another pause. Longer this time. On the screen, the alien ship's lights pulse slowly, almost thoughtfully. Intervention in the affairs of developing species is restricted under our governance protocols. A flicker of something passed through the crew. Fear, disappointment, the fragile edge of hope starting to crack. Of course it wasn't that simple. Nothing ever was. However, the word hit like a shockwave. Alara's head snapped up. Your condition is terminal without immediate aid. The blue lights brightened. Stand by for decision. The transmission cut. Just like that. The silence that followed was unbearable. What does that mean? Kale asked. Alara didn't answer, because she didn't know. Outside, the alien vessel remained motionless, watching, deciding. And, for the first time since the alarms began, there was something in the air that hadn't been there before. Not certainty, not safety, but something close. A fragile, dangerous possibility that maybe, just maybe, they weren't alone anymore. The silence stretched. No alarms now. No shouting. Just the low hum of failing systems and 12 people holding on to something they didn't quite trust. Hope. It felt fragile, unstable, like it might collapse if anyone touched it too hard. How long does a decision take? Kale muttered. No one answered, because no one knew how beings like that thought. Seconds? Hours? Or had they already decided and simply left? Alara kept her eyes on the screen, on the alien vessel. It hadn't moved, not even a fraction. The soft blue light along its hull pulsed steadily, almost rhythmic, like a heartbeat. Captain, the comms officer said suddenly, voice tight. Incoming transmission. Alara straightened. Put it through. Static flickered, brief, sharp, and then the voice returned. Still layered, still wrong, but clearer now. Human vessel. We have completed internal deliberation. A pause, long enough for every heartbeat on that bridge to become unbearable. Our governing laws prohibit interference in the natural progression of less advanced civilizations. Kale swore under his breath. Someone else let out a quiet, defeated exhale. Alara didn't move, didn't react. She had already prepared herself for this, for the universe to remain exactly what it had always been. Cold, unforgiving, uninterested. We are aware that assisting you may result in disciplinary action upon our return. The voice shifted slightly, not in tone, in weight, and potential loss of rank, command privileges, and societal standing. Another pause, but this one felt different. Not distant, not mechanical, personal. We have conducted a vote among our crew. The bridge went completely still. Even the failing systems seemed quieter, waiting. The decision was not unanimous. Alara felt her chest tighten. Of course it wasn't. Nothing important ever was. However, that word again, that single word that carried everything. The majority has chosen to act. A sharp breath escaped someone behind her. We will assist you. For a moment, no one moved. No one spoke. It didn't feel real. Prepare your vessel for external docking and medical transfer. The voice continued, steady, certain now. We will contain your reactor breach and stabilize your life support systems. Another pause. Softer. Understand this. Human vessel. Alara leaned forward slightly. This action violates our protocols. The blue lights on the alien ship flared faintly, visible even through the viewport. We do this not because we are permitted a beat, but because it is correct. Something broke on the bridge. Not systems, not structure, something inside them. Relief hit like a wave. Sharp, overwhelming, almost painful. Kale laughed once, short, disbelieving. Patel covered his face with both hands. Someone behind Alara choked on a breath that turned into something dangerously close to a sob. They were going to live. They were actually... Captain, the voice added, quieter now. Do you accept our assistance? Alara didn't hesitate. Yes, she said. Her voice was stronger than it had any right to be. Clear, certain. Yes, we accept. Acknowledged. The transmission ended. And this time, the silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full, charged, alive. Docking ports aligning, Patel said quickly, wiping his eyes before anyone could notice. They're matching our rotation perfectly. External clamps deploying, the engineer added. How are they? The ship shifted gently, not the violent lurches from before. Something controlled, precise, like a hand guiding them instead of chaos, tearing them apart. On the main screen, the alien vessel moved for the first time since it arrived. It didn't thrust forward. It flowed, closing the distance with impossible smoothness, its curved surface reflecting the broken hull of the Horizon Breaker like a mirror made of liquid light. Massive, silent, intentional, radiation levels dropping in Sector 4. The engineer said suddenly, They're doing something. Containment field is stabilizing. Alara let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. They were already helping, already risking everything. For strangers, for a signal in the dark. Medical team standing by. The comms officer reported. They're requesting permission to board. Alara looked around the bridge, at her crew, at the people who had been ready to die less than an hour ago. Granted, she said, and just like that, the course of everything changed. Docking completed with a sound so soft it almost felt imagined. No jolt, no impact, just a gentle shift, like the ship had exhaled for the first time in hours. They're sealed, Patel said quietly. Airlocks synchronized. Alara stared at the indicator lights. Green, all green. For a moment, no one moved, because this was the point where things became real. They're requesting entry, the comms officer added. Alara nodded once. Open it. The inner airlock hissed. Slow, controlled, and then they came through. The first thing Alara noticed was their movement. Careful, measured, not hesitant, but aware, like they understood exactly how fragile everything on this ship had become. They were taller than humans, not by much, but enough to feel different. Their bodies were lean, covered in small overlapping scales that caught the red emergency light in dull, shifting patterns. Their limbs moved with a kind of fluid precision that made every step seem intentional. Their eyes were the most striking, large, amber, focused, Not cold, not warm, just aware. One of them stepped forward slightly ahead of the others. A leader. Alara knew it instantly. The translation device crackled softly before his voice came through. Human commander. The layered sound of it was still there beneath the translation, but softer now, less jarring. I am Captain Thesker of the vessel you designate as Gentle Current. Alara straightened, forcing her body to cooperate. Captain Alara Ven, she replied. Terran Exploration Corps. Thesker inclined his head slightly. Not a human gesture, but close enough. We will begin medical extraction immediately, he said. Your crew's condition is deteriorating faster than projected. He turned, already signaling to the others behind him. They moved instantly. No confusion, no wasted motion. Equipment unfolded in their hands, sleek, unfamiliar devices that hummed with a soft blue glow. One of them knelt beside Ro without asking permission, scanning her with something that pulsed light across her body. Ro flinched, then froze. Pain decreasing, she whispered, disbelief creeping into her voice. Alara felt something tighten in her chest. They weren't just helping, they were fixing it. Captain, Thesker said again, drawing her attention back. We will stabilize your crew, but your vessel remains at critical risk. Our engineering teams are already working on your reactor. You've done enough, Alara said before she could stop herself. The words came out rough, too fast, too honest. Thesker studied her for a moment. Those amber eyes didn't blink the way human ones did. We have not, he said simply. We have only begun. Behind him, one of his crew lifted Jenkins onto a hovering platform, something that hadn't been there a second ago. The device adjusted instantly, supporting his weight without pressure, without strain. They handled him like he mattered, like he wasn't already lost. Vital stabilizing, the alien medic said, his translated voice calm. Damage is severe, but reversible. Kale let out a sound that was half laugh, half disbelief. Reversible, he repeated. You mean he's not? Not yet, the medic replied. Not yet. That was enough. Alara turned back to Thesker. Why? She asked. It slipped out before she could stop it. Not accusation, not suspicion, just confusion. You said this breaks your laws. Thesker didn't answer immediately. He watched his crew instead. Watched as they moved through the bridge, stabilizing systems, assisting the injured, working with a quiet efficiency that didn't feel rushed, but didn't waste a single second. Then he looked back at her. Your vessel transmitted a distress signal, he said. Alara frowned slightly. That's standard. Any ship would. Yes, he interrupted gently. Many do. A pause. Subtle. Meaningful. Most signals we receive are calculated, he continued. Structured. Controlled. They ask for assistance within defined parameters. Alara didn't understand. So did ours. Thesker tilted his head slightly. No, he said. Yours did not. The words settled heavily between them. It was unfiltered, he explained. Incomplete. Degrading. It carried not only data, but urgency. Alara's throat tightened slightly. That's because we were dying. Yes, Thesker said. Another pause. But that is not the reason. Alara blinked. Then what is? Thesker's gaze didn't shift. Your transmission contained something unusual. Alara felt her pulse pick up. What? Thesker glanced briefly toward Patel's station. The final repeating segment, he said. Your communications officer added it manually. Alara turned sharply. Patel. Patel froze at his console. I thought it might help, he stammered. I recorded a short message and looped it with the beacon, just in case someone you know. Alara stepped closer. What did you say? Patel hesitated, then swallowed. I said, there are 12 of us. We're not ready to die. If anyone can hear this, please. Silence. Heavy. Real. Thesker looked back at Alara. In our language, he said slowly, there is no direct translation for that structure. Ilara frowned. Structure. The way it was spoken, Thesker clarified. It was not a request. It was not a demand. Another pause. It was a reaching. Ilara didn't know what to say to that. We are explorers, Thesker continued. We observe. We study. We avoid interference. His gaze hardened slightly, not in aggression, but in conviction. But we are also sentient. A subtle shift in the air. In that moment, he said, your message was not data. He held her gaze. It was understood. Ilara felt something in her chest tighten again. Different this time. Stronger. And your crew? She asked quietly. They all agreed? Thesker's expression didn't change. No, he said. Honest. Direct. Some argued that intervention would compromise our standing, that your species has not yet reached the threshold for external assistance. Ilara nodded slowly. That sounds reasonable. It is, Thesker agreed. Another pause, but not sufficient. Behind him, Jenkins stirred. A weak movement, a breath. Kale froze beside him. He's waking up, he whispered. Ilara's eyes flicked toward them. Just for a second, then back to Thesker. You're risking everything, she said. Yes. No hesitation, no doubt. Ilara exhaled slowly. Then I need you to understand something. She reached to her side and pulled out a small device from her belt. Her personal recorder. Standard issue. Nothing special. Except now it mattered. She activated it. The small red light blinked on. This is Captain Ilara Venn of the Terran Exploration Corps, she said, her voice steady despite everything. Time stamp irrelevant. Location unmapped sector. She stepped closer to Thesker. So it's clear, she continued. Captain Thesker of the Valkyrie vessel Gentle Current and his crew have chosen to assist a human vessel in distress, knowing it violates their governing laws. Thesker didn't interrupt, didn't stop her. Ilara held the recorder up between them. They have saved 12 human lives today, she said. Each word deliberate, measured. They did it with no obligation, no guarantee, no gain. The bridge was silent again. Even the alien crew seemed to pause, just slightly, listening. Ilara lowered the recorder slightly, but didn't turn it off. Humans don't forget things like this, she said. Her voice softened. Not weaker, just real. We remember who stands with us when it matters. Thesker watched her closely now, studying, learning. If your people face consequences for this, she continued, if you ever need help, any help, you send this back to us. She extended the recorder toward him, because we remember our friends. A long moment passed. Then Thesker reached out and took it. Carefully, almost thoughtfully. I do not fully understand your species, he said. Ilara gave a faint, tired smile. Most people don't. Thesker looked down at the device in his hand, then back at her. But I believe, he said slowly, that this is important to you. It is, Ilara replied. Another pause. Then Thesker inclined his head again. This time, it felt different, more deliberate. Then we will keep it, he said. And somewhere in that moment, without anyone fully realizing it, something far bigger than a rescue had just been set in motion. 42 years later, the stars burned the same, cold, distant, unchanged. Everything else had not been so lucky. Another colony gone, the officer said quietly. Captain Lyra Thess stood at the observation window of her patrol ship, watching the distant glow fade into nothing. It wasn't a star dying. It was a world, one of theirs. The light flickered once, then disappeared completely. Silence followed, not just on the bridge, inside her. How many now? She asked. The officer hesitated. 17 confirmed. Outer systems are gone. Gone. Such a small word for something so complete. Lyra didn't respond. Below her ship, the refugee fleet stretched across space. Hundreds of vessels, civilian transports never meant for war, packed tight, and moving slowly. Too slowly. Families, children, everything they had left. Running. Always running. Status of defensive line? She asked. Collapsed 2 hours ago, came the reply. The Siari pushed through without resistance. Of course they did. The Valkyrie had never been warriors. They had ships, technology, knowledge, but not this. Not war like this. The Siari, he didn't negotiate. They didn't warn. They didn't stop. They arrived, and things ended. Any response from the council? Lyra asked. They've issued full evacuation orders, the officer said. All remaining vessels are to escort the civilian fleet out of the system. Lyra let out a slow breath. Evacuation, not defense, not resistance. Leaving. Their home. Everything they had built. Everything they were. Understood, she said quietly. She turned away from the viewport. The bridge lights were dimmer now. Power conservation. Even here, at the center of what remained of their fleet, they were already running out. Running out of time. Running out of options. Running out of hope. Captain, another officer spoke, voice tight. Incoming projections show the CRE will intercept the main refugee fleet within 32 hours. Lyra closed her eyes briefly. 32 hours. Not enough. Not even close. We don't have the ships to stop them, the officer added. Even if every remaining vessel stands and fights, we lose. Lyra nodded once. Yes, she said. Simple. True. No argument. Because everyone on that bridge already knew they weren't going to win. They were trying to survive, and even that was slipping away. Signal updates? She asked. We've transmitted requests for aid to all known neighboring systems, the comms officer replied. Every species we've encountered. Every trade partner. Every. He stopped. Lyra didn't need him to finish. No response, she said. No response, he confirmed. Not even a refusal. Just silence. The galaxy had already made its decision. The Valkyrie were alone. Again, Lyra walked slowly across the bridge, each step measured, controlled, because if she stopped, if she let herself feel everything pressing down at once, she wasn't sure she would start moving again. Prepare escort formations, she said. We stay with the civilians. Whatever happens. Yes, Captain. Orders were still followed. Structure still held. Even at the end. Captain, the comms officer said again, more hesitant this time. There was one more suggestion from the council before communications broke down. Lyra paused. Go on. They considered contacting the humans. Lyra turned slowly. The humans? She repeated. The name felt distant. Old. Like something from a different lifetime. They dismissed it, he added quickly. Too far. Too long ago. No formal alliance. No guarantee they would respond. Lyra stared at him for a moment, then looked away. Yes, that sounded right. Humans. She remembered studying them once. Briefly, a developing species. Emotional. Unpredictable. Dangerous in ways that didn't fit clean models. And far away. Very far away. They wouldn't come, she said quietly. Not bitterness. Just logic. They have their own worlds to protect. Yes, Captain. Silence settled again. Outside, the refugee fleet continued its slow, desperate movement through the void. Ships packed too tightly. Engines pushed beyond safe limits. People inside hoping for something that wasn't there. Lyra returned to the viewport, watched the stars drift past. 42 years. That was how long it had been since first contact. Since a rescue in deep space. Since one of their captains had broken protocol to save strangers. She barely remembered the details. Just fragments from old reports. A human ship dying. A choice made. A punishment given. Ancient history. Irrelevant now. Or at least, it should have been. Captain, the officer said softly. Lyra didn't turn. Yes. Do you think we made the right choice? Back then. The question lingered. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Lyra stared out into the endless black, thought about the worlds they had lost, the people they couldn't save, the silence from the stars. Then she answered. Yes, she said. No hesitation. Even now, even here, I do. Behind her, the ship continued forward, escorting the last of their people away from a dying home. And somewhere, buried beneath war and loss and inevitability, a memory waited, quiet, unnoticed, not yet ready to matter, but it would. Soon, the attack came, without warning. No signal, no demand, no hesitation. Contacts? The sensor officer shouted, his voice snapping the bridge into motion. Multiple hyperspace breaches. Bearing 037, distance collapsing fast. Lyra spun toward the display. Space tore open. Not gently, not cleanly. It ripped, dark fractures spreading across the void before snapping back into reality, leaving behind shapes that blocked out the stars. Ships, huge, angular, violent. Ciari, how many? She demanded. The officer's hands moved frantically across the console, counting 30, no, 50 more incoming. The number kept rising. It didn't stop. Lyra felt something cold settle in her chest. Not fear. Something worse. Recognition. This is it, someone whispered. Yes, Lyra said quietly. No denial. No illusion. This was the moment everything ended. Alert the fleet, she ordered. Full defensive formation. All ships. Protect the civilian core. Captain, we don't have the firepower. I know. Her voice didn't rise. Didn't shake. We're not here to win. We're here to buy time. The officer swallowed hard. Yes, Captain. Across the void, the CRE fleet spread out like a predator circling wounded prey. Their ships were massive, thick armored hulls bristling with weapon arrays that glowed faintly even at this distance. They weren't rushing. They didn't need to. They knew exactly what they were facing. Weakness. Incoming transmission. The comms officer said, voice tight. Lyra stared at the screen. Put it through. The face that appeared wasn't like hers. Sharp features, dark, plated skin, eyes that held no hesitation, only certainty. This is Commander Varek of the CRE Dominion. The translated voice came through, cold and precise. You are in violation of territorial acquisition protocols. Surrender your fleet immediately and prepare for processing. Processing, not evacuation, not negotiation. Lyra felt her jaw tighten. There are civilians here, she said. Families, non-combatants. Allow them safe passage, and we will withdraw. A pause. Then a slight tilt of the head. Almost curious. Your species continues to misunderstand, Varek replied. No anger. No cruelty, just indifference. There is no distinction. The words landed heavier than any weapon. Lyra's hands curled into fists at her sides. They're not part of this conflict. They exist, Varek said simply. That is sufficient. The transmission ended. No warning, no countdown, just silence. For half a second. Then, energy spike, the sensor officer shouted. The void lit up. Brilliant lines of light lanced across the distance. Precise, overwhelming, unstoppable. Impact in 3. The first volley hit. Not their ship. Not yet. It struck the outer escort line. Valkyrie vessels, smaller, lighter, simply ceased to exist. Shields flared for a fraction of a second before collapsing, hulls tearing apart under the force. Return fire, Lyra ordered. Her fleet answered, not with power, with desperation. Streams of energy shot back across the void, scattered, uneven, insufficient. They struck the CRE ships and dissipated against armor that barely registered the impact. Direct hits have no effect, the weapons officer said, his voice already hollow. I know, Lyra said. Then what do we? Hold formation. Because that was all they had. The CRE advanced. Steady, relentless. Each movement calculated, efficient. Another volley. More ships gone. Civilian fleet is breaking formation, someone shouted. They're panicking. Of course they were. They could see it now. The scale. The inevitability. Lyra stepped forward, grabbing the comm channel before anyone else could. All Valkyrie vessels, she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. Maintain course. Stay within escort perimeter. We will hold the line. A lie. A necessary one. Behind her, alarms screamed. Systems overloaded. Shields fluctuating. Captain, the engineer said, barely keeping his voice steady. We cannot withstand a direct hit. Lyra nodded. I know. Another explosion tore through the void, closer this time. Too close. Fragments of a Valkyrie cruiser spun past their viewport, glowing as they burned away into nothing. How long? Someone asked. No one answered, because the answer didn't matter. Not anymore. The CRE fleet tightened its formation, closing in, driving them back, breaking them apart piece by piece. Captain, the comms officer whispered, there's nowhere left to fall back to. Lyra looked out at the refugee fleet, at the ships carrying everything her people had left, at the children who didn't understand why the stars were burning, at the families who had already lost everything once, and now we're about to lose it again. She exhaled slowly. Then we don't fall back, she said. Quiet, certain. We stand. Even if it meant nothing. Even if it changed nothing. Even if this was where the Valkyrie ended. The next volley charged. Brighter, stronger, closer, and this time, it was aimed directly at them. The message took 3 attempts to send. The first failed when the relay array overloaded. The second never left the system. The third barely held together. Boost it again, Lyra said, her voice low but unyielding. Captain, the comms grid is already at maximum, the officer replied. If we push it any further, we risk. Do it. No hesitation. No room for argument, because there was nothing left to lose. The ship shuddered as power rerouted. Life support dimming for a fraction of a second. Lights flickering dangerously close to darkness. Transmission channel open, the officer said. Long range burst unstable, but active. Lyra stepped forward, hands steady, heart not. Recording, the system confirmed. For a moment, just a moment, she didn't speak, because she knew how this sounded, how it would look. Desperate, foolish, too late. She almost stopped. Almost. Then she remembered the stories. Not official records. Not council archives. Stories, passed down quietly, about a captain who broke the rules, about strangers saved in the dark, about a promise that had never been tested. Until now, Lyra exhaled slowly. Then she spoke. This is Captain Lyra Thess of the Valkyrie fleet. Her voice carried across the empty void. Fragile, small, but real. We are under attack. Behind her, another explosion lit the bridge in white before fading back to red. She didn't flinch. Our home system has fallen. Our civilian fleet is in retreat. We cannot hold. No embellishment, no pride, just truth. We have sent requests for aid to all known systems. A pause. They have not answered. Her eyes flicked briefly to the viewport, to the burning edge of what used to be everything. Then back. There is one more message we can send. Her hand moved, reaching into a secured compartment at her side. The device was old, worn. Withdraw. A pause. Then, there are civilians here, she said. Families, non-combatants. Allow them safe passage, and we will withdraw. Carefully preserved. She held it for a second, felt its weight, then connected it to the transmission console. A pending historical record, the system said. Static flickered. Then, a voice filled the bridge. Different, human, faint with age, but unmistakable. Humans don't forget things like this. We remember who stands with us when it matters. The words echoed through the ship, through time, through everything that had come since. Lyra closed her eyes briefly, then opened them again. "If this message reaches you," she continued, her voice quieter now, "we do not ask for obligation." Another explosion. Closer. The ship rocked hard enough to throw one of the officers sideways. Still, she didn't stop. "We do not demand repayment," because that wasn't who they were. Not anymore. "We only ask." She hesitated, just for a second, because this part mattered. "We only ask if you remember." Silence. Heavy. Honest. "If you do." Her grip tightened slightly on the console. "Then we need help." No pride left. No distance. Just a reaching. Raw. Unfiltered. Real. Coordinates streamed automatically alongside the message. Battle data. Casualty projections. Everything. Transmission integrity failing. The officer warned. "We're losing the signal." "Push it." Lyra snapped. "I am." The console sparked. The lights dimmed again. Then, message sent. The words hung in the air. Unbelievable. Final. Gone. Lyra stared at the display, at the fading confirmation signal. "That's it," the officer said quietly. "No," Lyra replied. Her voice wasn't hopeful. It wasn't confident. It was simply steady. "That's everything." Because that's what it was. Everything they had left. A message sent into a silent galaxy. A memory thrown across the void. A promise they weren't even sure had ever truly existed. Behind her, the battle continued. Ships burned. Systems failed. Lives ended. And somewhere impossibly far away, if anyone heard it at all, a question now waited in the dark. Not a demand. Not a command. Just one simple thing. "Do you remember?" The first ship didn't arrive with light. It arrived with silence. "Captain," the sensor officer whispered, his voice trembling in a way Lyra had never heard before. "I'm detecting hyperspace distortion." Lyra didn't turn immediately. "Bearing behind the CRE fleet." That made her look. The display flickered, struggling to process what it was seeing. Space bent. Not violently, like the CRE entry. Not tearing. This was controlled. Precise. Like something opening a door instead of breaking through a wall. Then, it happened. A ship slipped into real space. Clean. Sharp. Human. Lyra stared. "One vessel," the officer said, confusion overtaking fear. "Unknown class, military configuration." The bridge went quiet. "One ship. Against this." "Are they?" Kale's counterpart on her crew hesitated. "Are they insane?" The lone vessel adjusted its position, moving forward, not away, not hesitating, directly between the CRE fleet and the Valkyrie refugees, protecting them. "Just one." "Captain," the comms officer said, voice shaking. "Incoming broadcast. It's open frequency." "Put it through." The screen flickered. A human face appeared. Older, weathered, eyes that had seen too much, and chosen not to look away. "This is Admiral Jonah Reyes of the Terran vessel Resolute." The voice came through, steady, unshaken. "Valkyrie fleet, you are not alone." Lyra felt something in her chest crack. Not break. Crack. "We received your message," he continued. "We heard the recording." A pause. His gaze hardened slightly. "We remember." The words hit like impact. Across the void, the single human ship surged forward. Weapons charged. Not hesitating. Not waiting. CRE vessels. Rhea's voice cut across all frequencies now, sharp as a blade. "You will cease your attack immediately and withdraw from Valkyrie space." On the tactical display, the CRE fleet shifted. Not retreating. Repositioning. Curious. Amused. The response came quickly. "You send one ship," the CRE commander's voice echoed, "to challenge a fleet." Reyes didn't blink. "No," he said. A beat. Then, "Not one." Space opened again. Once. Twice. 10 times. Then it didn't stop. Hyperspace fractures bloomed across the void, clean, controlled, deliberate, and ships poured through. Dozens, then hundreds. Human vessels of every size and shape, warships, cargo haulers, civilian transports stripped for combat, filling the space behind the Resolute in a formation that wasn't perfect, but didn't need to be. "Captain," Lyra whispered, barely able to breathe. "Counting contacts," the officer stammered. 50, 100, 200. It kept climbing. 300+ vessels confirmed. The void changed. Completely. The CRE fleet was no longer the largest force in the system. The human fleet spread outward, forming a wall between the Valkyrie and Annihilation. Every ship broadcasting the same signal, the same words, over and over. "We remember." Lyra felt tears on her face. She hadn't even realized when they started. "They came," someone whispered behind her. "They actually came." On the main display, Admiral Reyes leaned forward slightly. "You were given 1 hour," he said calmly. "That time has expired." The CRE commander's expression had changed. Not fear, not yet, but something close. "You risk war for this," he demanded. "For them." Reyes didn't hesitate. "Yes." No explanation. No justification. Just truth. "They helped us when they had no reason to," he continued. "Now we're returning the favor." Behind him, human ships moved into position, tightening formation, coordinating without command, adjusting like parts of a single organism. "You will withdraw," Reyes said. "And if we don't?" the CRE commander asked. Reyes' expression didn't change. "Then you'll learn something about us you should have learned a long time ago." A pause. Cold. Final. "We don't forget." The screen cut, and the battle began. The battle didn't end quickly. It ended slowly, painfully, earned. Hours stretched into something shapeless, measured not in time, but in losses. "Port flank collapsing," someone shouted. "Reinforce with Group 7. Move, move." Lyra stood frozen at the center of it all, watching the impossible unfold. Human ships didn't fight, like the CRE. They didn't rely on size, or armor, or overwhelming force. They moved. Fast. Unpredictable. Alive. 3 smaller vessels would swarm a single CRE warship, striking from angles that made no sense. Targeting systems instead of hulls, blinding, crippling, tearing control away piece by piece. And when that wasn't enough, they got closer. Too close. "Captain, there." The officer's voice broke. "They're ramming." Lyra watched in disbelief as a damaged human freighter, its engines barely holding together, adjusted its trajectory, just slightly, and drove itself directly into the side of a CRE battleship. The impact lit the void like a second sun. Both ships vanished. Gone. No hesitation. No retreat. Just decision. "They're sacrificing themselves," someone whispered. Not in horror. In awe. Another volley streaked across space, this time toward a cluster of Valkyrie civilian ships. Before it could hit, human vessels moved, not to intercept, to shield. Unarmed transports, medical ships, even smaller craft with no weapons at all slid into the line of fire, taking the impact directly against their hulls. "They're protecting the civilians," Lyra said, her voice barely audible. "They don't even know them." "They don't need to," the officer replied. And that was the moment it changed. Not just the battle. Everything. The CRE were stronger. Their ships heavier. Their weapons deadlier. But they didn't understand this. Didn't understand why an entire fleet would fight like this. Didn't understand why they couldn't break them. "Sir, we're losing ships faster than projected." The CRE commander's voice echoed faintly across intercepted channels. "Human forces are ignoring damage thresholds. They are not disengaging." Of course they weren't. Lyra could see it, feel it. Every human ship fought like it had already made its choice before it ever arrived. There was no hesitation left. Only purpose. Another explosion. Closer. Fragments scattered past the viewport, glowing briefly before fading into nothing. Status report. Lyra snapped. CRE fleet has lost 30% combat capability, the officer replied. But they're still advancing. Human losses? A pause. Severe. She didn't ask for numbers. She didn't need them. She could see it. Ships burning. Ships drifting. Ships still fighting even as they fell apart. Captain, the comms officer said suddenly, Admiral Reyes is hailing the CRE again. Put it through. The screen flickered. Reyes appeared. Blood ran down one side of his face. Smoke filled the background. But his eyes were steady. CRE Commander, he said, calm, unshaken. This ends now. The CRE Commander stared back, not amused anymore, not confident. Why? He demanded. Why do you continue? You are losing ships. You are losing people. They are not your species. Reyes didn't answer immediately. Behind him, another explosion rocked his ship. He didn't even look. 42 years ago, he said finally, a Valkyrie captain broke his laws to save 12 humans. The CRE commander frowned. Insignificant. Reyes smiled. And it wasn't kind. Those 12 people had families, he said. Children. Grandchildren. His voice hardened. Entire bloodlines that exist because someone chose to help when they didn't have to. Silence. Heavy. Real. You think this is about them? Reyes continued. About territory? About power. He shook his head slightly. This is about a promise. A beat. We remember. The words echoed across every channel, every ship, every mind listening. The CRE commander hesitated. Just for a second. Then longer. Lyra saw it on the tactical display. The shift. Small, but real. Sir, one of his officers said quietly, we cannot break them. Another pause. Longer now. Then, order the retreat. The words felt impossible. Unreal. Full withdrawal. All vessels. The CRE ships began to pull back. Slowly at first. Then faster. Breaking formation. Leaving. Lyra stared at the display. She didn't breathe. Didn't move. Until... They're retreating, the officer whispered. They're gone, someone else said. And just like that, it was over. The void fell silent again. Not empty. Not this time. Alive. Filled with drifting ships, burning debris and survivors. Lyra sank back into her chair. Her hands were shaking now. She didn't try to stop them. Captain, the comms officer said softly. Incoming transmission. She nodded. Put it through. Reyes appeared again. Tired. Wounded. Alive. It's over, he said. Lyra swallowed hard. You came, she said. Simple. But it carried everything. Reyes gave a small nod. You asked if we remembered. A faint pause. We do. Lyra looked past him. At the ships behind him. The ones still holding formation despite everything. The ones that had come across the stars. For them. For a promise, she said quietly. Reyes shook his head. No, he replied. For friends. The connection ended. And for the first time since the war began, Lyra allowed herself to believe it. They weren't alone anymore. Not in the way that mattered. Around her, the surviving ships began to regroup. Valkyrie and human vessels drifting side by side. Damaged. Scarred. Alive. A new formation. Not built for war, but for something else. Something stronger. Lyra looked out at the stars again. They hadn't changed, but everything else had. Because somewhere, long ago, in the dark between worlds, someone had made a choice. A small one, a quiet one, to help. And that had been enough. Enough to echo across decades. Enough to bring an entire species across the galaxy. Enough to change the fate of everything. And now, everyone would know. If you helped a human, if you stood with them when it mattered, They would come, no matter how far, no matter how long, no matter the cost, because humans remembered, and they always paid their debts.